is 6 o'clock.
That issue.
I want to welcome everybody to the Planning Board meeting for May 16th for the town of East Fishkill. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I want to start with a couple of introductions. We have two new members of the Planning Board. To my right, your left in the audience is John Greenan, who's joining us on the board. And to my left, your right, is John Giovanoli, who is our alternate. Welcome and congratulations.
Thank you.
Upcoming meeting dates are June 20th, 2023 and July 18th, 2023. We have minutes from the meeting of April 18th, 2023. Has everybody had a chance to review those minutes? You have not? Tell you what, we'll hold those over until the next meeting because, to be perfectly frank, I have not either. So we'll hold those for the next time. We'll start with the roll call, and we'll start with John.
John Greenan.
Don Pappy.
Lori G.
John Eichman.
Richard Campbell.
Ed Miyoshi.
Sarah Bledsoe.
John Giovanoli.
Okay, thank you. So the first item on the agenda is Mary Lane subdivision.
Hello. So last time, the issue was about the septic being too close or being within the right-of-way. So on Friday, I had sent over the septic lot, and it shows that it's not.
Yeah, they've taken care of the concerns we had regarding where the septic is, make sure it's not crossing lots or would be within the easement that's going to the town.
Okay, excellent. Were there any other concerns or questions, Christian?
I only had a couple plan-related comments. Actually, they were regarding the descriptions. That's for the surveyor to handle. They still need to get health department approval, but everything else in our letter was taken care of.
Okay.
The only other thing is in terms of along the road, Mary Lane, there'll be an easement to the benefit of the town for utility and road maintenance. And that boundary of that easement will be treated the same as a right-of-way, and in the effect that setbacks will be measured from that edge.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments by members of the board? If not, then I will read a negative declaration. Name of action, Mary Lane 2-lot subdivision. The proposed action is the subdivision of a 2-acre lot with an existing house into 2 lots. This is an unlisted action, and the proposed action would result in the subdivision of a 2-acre lot with an existing house into 2 1-acre lots in an R1 zoning district. The proposed new building lot would be consistent with the R1 zoning and the residential neighborhood character. The proposed project would not be expected to result in any significant adverse impacts on the environment for the following reasons. It will not generate a significant amount of additional vehicles, noise, or emission levels, nor will it affect rare or endangered species of animal or plant or habitat of such species. It will not result in any impacts to historic or archaeological resources, any impacts related to hazardous materials. It will not result in a significant effect on air, water quality, or ambient noise levels for adjoining areas. Will not be subjected to unacceptable risk of flooding or major geological hazards. It will not have a substantial aesthetic effect. Will not involve adversely effect on any surface water or groundwater. Will not allow for improper uses within specific zoning districts. Will not result in adverse cumulative impacts. Will not result in adverse growth-inducing impacts, and will not conflict with the town's comprehensive plan. Could I have a motion to approve this negative declaration?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. We then have a resolution. So you have to stand there for just another moment while we read through this. Resolution of the final subdivision approval. The name of the subdivision plan is Mary Lane 2-lot subdivision. Name of applicant Regina and Timothy Davis. Location Mary Lane. Whereas the applicant applied for a minor two-lot subdivision of a 2-acre parcel, which includes an existing residence, and whereas the 2-acre parcel currently extends into the center of Mary Lane, and whereas the town will require 25-foot road maintenance and utility easements starting from the center line of Mary Lane and extending into the lot, and whereas the 25-foot road maintenance and utility easement must not be encumbered with any new above-ground or subterranean structures, such as new septic, new trees, et cetera, whereas any required yard setbacks must be measured from the edge of the road maintenance and utility easement, whereas the public hearing was opened and closed on April 18th, 2023, and whereas a negative declaration was adopted by the Planning Board on May 16th, 2023, and now therefore be it resolved that the Planning Board hereby grants subdivision approval for the above project as represented on a map entitled Subdivision Plat for Regina and Timothy Davis, prepared by Richard L. Yulee, thank you, dated December 19th, 2019, and last revised May 11th, 2023, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, approval from Dutchess County Board of Health. Number 2, the establishment of a 25-foot road maintenance and utility easement dedicated to the town and shown on the subdivision map as approved by the town attorney and town engineer. Number 3, the setback for any required yard will be measured from the edge of the road maintenance and utility easement. Number 4, applicant shall fund an escrow in the amount to be determined by the town engineer for an environmental monitor during construction. Number 5, satisfactory resolution of all comments on the CPL review memo dated 5/16/23. Number 6, sign off from the town highway department for driveway locations and site distance. Be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the planning board shall cause a copy of this resolution be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the applicant owner. I will make that motion as the chairman, John Eichman. Could I have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good night.
Good night. So we are deferring action on Farmview Estates. They've asked to be on the June agenda, so we'll see them at the next meeting. And Rising Sky Housing has also requested to be adjourned until June. So the last item on the agenda is Stormville Square.
I think we got it here. Try to zoom in a little bit. All right, that's pretty good. All right, Brian Stokosa, Dane Stokosa Engineering. This project was in front of the board last year, and we had final approval on an amended site plan that involved the creation of a one-story, 36,000 square foot building toward the rear. The building in the rear was going to have indoor storage, and we set the building back in case there was any potential future of water and sewer coming by, that there would be development potential in the front of the property. But for right now, the applicant was considering, again, one-story, 36,000 square foot of indoor storage. They've actually been on site, improving the site, following the approved site plan. You've probably seen the entrance has gone in. They've paved the entrance, they've put some curbing in, they've been doing improvements around the existing building in the front. If you remember, the building in the front has a couple of retail businesses, liquor store, coffee shop, pizzeria, and bar. So they've started interior modifications on the existing building, and you've probably seen the grading that they've done on site. They followed the grading plan that was approved with the original site plan by basically leveling the site, clearing the rear yard. And while they were going through the grading process and just looking at the site, when they were in their construction period, they started looking at how to configure the building, looking at building costs, again, because we had such a large footprint, and running numbers on retaining walls and things like that. They kind of took a step back and said, is there a way we can kind of configure this to achieve the same concept, but be more neighborhood friendly, not have such a big footprint, and try to pull things into the site. So we're here tonight to discuss amending the site plan to keep the same concept, indoor storage, but go from one 36,000 square foot footprint to do 18,000 square foot first and second floor, and having a total of 36,000 square foot, but just pulling in the building, pulling in the disturbance, not the disturbance, but the impervious, to try to soften the feel once they cleared the property. The architectural style will be the same as the original building. It'll just be two-story. The concept's going to mirror what they've done over at the Hopewell Square building, which is you're going to have at the back of the property goes up in elevation. The back of the property will be one story, and then as you come around to the front, which faces Route 216, it'll be exposed two-story. So it's the same concept as Hopewell Square, just kind of flipped. And by doing this, we're kind of pulling the building away from the rear property line. We're getting away from those massive retaining walls. I think we had, at one point, had a 14-foot retaining wall in the back, and it was fairly close to the rear property line. So just looking looking at the neighborhood and the properties around.
How far would it move forward, from,
Oh, I think it was maybe 75 feet or more from where it used to be. So it's substantially forward. So, and it basically, with this layout, we're trying to minimize impacts, both financially for the applicant and to the neighbors, to try to give it a closer feel.
and so that hill that's behind it then would be graded so that, if you have a flood, you don't wind up with a mud inundation.
Right, if you go out there right now, the hillside's actually graded, and it's been seeded, and it's actually starting to germinate. So you can see that hillside now, it's nicely blended in, and you're not going to have like these massive retaining walls in the back. So it should be a softer feel for the site. But again, we're here tonight just to kind of refresh the board. We have a new board member here, but just kind of give an update to the board to see how it's received by the board, and if there is the opportunity to take this forward with approval.
Now, what we're looking at on this plan right now is the new shape.
New shape. So we try to, again, two-story, we try to width-wise shrink it down in mass, and then keeping with that same footprint so we don't get into an increase of what we were before with our current approval. We try to tuck the parking inside the building, so if you see it's kind of U-shaped, so we try to pull that parking into the building, just so we didn't have so much in the front, and maintain that square footage.
And what about the side setbacks? Did they increase or decrease when?
They relatively the same, couple of
Similar?
feet here and there. It's mainly the rear portion, and obviously trying to give a little bit of buffer to that hillside.
Now, everything would still remain, I think it was going to be climate controlled and,
Yeah, if there were references in our submission to retail, again, we were playing around with some iterations of this, and it came up in conversation, to be honest with you, but it was a drafting error when we did submit. Again, this is the same concept from a firefighting standpoint. We're doing dry suppression.
Sprinklers,
So
yeah.
it's the same field.
and this would require an elevator?
No, because you're going to be able to drive around the back. In the back
Oh, because of the grade, they're going to, I see.
Again,
Understood.
trying to like,
So you're going to have like 2 entrances based on that, okay.
yeah, trying to keep a financial aspect of these projects is becoming more important. So that was the concept with that elevation difference.
So just, I don't know if you would remember, so when people came in, when we had the public meeting, the people that were talking about the visual site, was it from the back, the side? Who, I don't remember, because I know that there was some questions about, site
I
and
think
coverage,
I think it was
buffer.
just a general feel, just because that site was so wooded at the point, just how does it feel blending in with the neighborhood? We're going to be, keeping the same concept with low cutoff lighting, screening around the property.
Right.
Those concepts are all going to be reflected into this site plan amendment. But again, from a visual standpoint, we will be a little bit higher, but I think the mass of it will also be smaller.
Concentrated. Now, I haven't been out to the site lately. Have they culled, like, trees around the property where there would be protective, because, being that the building's kind of going to grow?
Yep, we're going to carry that same landscaping line across the residential portion that faces Old 52? Right. We're going to carry that concept too, and then with the hillside being graded, if there's landscape, then that is going to be required. I think we did show a couple of trees there. We're going to carry that same concept, because we'll be a little bit taller, so let's try to soften it a little bit, with some greens.
Brian, do you have building elevations and lighting plan, things like that?
So that's forthcoming to the board. Before we kind of got heavy into details and spending the applicant's money, we wanted to get a good feel from the board as if this concept can gain traction with the board, and then we'd obviously supplement that with additional details.
So really, you are softening too by eliminating the retaining wall and all that. You really are having natural.
Yeah, because we were getting into
growth.
things we were worried about. I think the biggest thing we had was child safety, with kids and balls coming down.
Absolutely.
That's, we were talking about fencing.
Sure.
Trying to have trees staged so that there wouldn't be a fall issue. So that whole conversation, is out the door now with this concept.
So
You
that,
need the retaining wall, but you'd still have fencing, right?
We could, yeah, the fencing concept. I think just from balls coming down the hill, you probably want that, but.
okay.
And what would you say the grade change is from where that was going to be?
I think, do we have 12 feet or 15 feet? 12 feet.
12, okay.
So I like the idea of the building being smaller. I don't mind it being taller since it's cut into a hill. There's 2-story houses kind of all around it. That doesn't seem like it would be a problem. I feel like it could look a lot nicer. I still feel like it's not the best use for this lot and this area and this particular corner. Driving by there now, it actually looks really nice, cleared out, graded. Where the road is, looks really nice. The new facade on the plaza looks really nice. But
Yeah, I agree. With this is a tough section of town. I think there's a demand for something because we do have a lot of, residential units there now. There's a lot coming down the pipeline in front of the planning board. It'd be nice if water and sewer could be someday available in this corner, and I think it really, there's a need for something here. And I think the way this building is being configured, there could be the opportunity that it's converted at some point, that there's water, sewer. There could be the potential of having a small, market in the front. I think everybody would benefit from that use. It's a function of water and sewer, and I know the town's working hard to get through that, but, we're trying to stage this project and position things that we're doing smart development and just changing, if the area changes, that we can change too with it.
Were you able to reconcile all the issues with the DOT? I recall that you had some difficulty working with them. Did that all get taken care of?
Yep, we had DOT permits issued for the improvements at the new entrance location and the modification to the entrance on the existing building. So we had a highway work permit issued. The flow and the traffic generated with this layout, since we're not increasing the size of the building, it's going to be the same. So there should be no impact to DOT in that aspect.
Great.
No changes in parking or any of that?
Any other questions or comments? Anything from our professionals?
I think HVA would like to see some turning radiuses around, because there's been some changes with the unloading areas and aisle widths, et cetera, so they'd like to see, for emergency vehicles,
Absolutely.
some turn diagrams.
Yep. And we'll go through the standard details, like lighting plan, we'll update lighting. I think from moving forward, we're obviously going to have to present renderings to the board to see, what the change is and, the details related to that. I'm assuming we probably need a referral to the Architectural Review Board, correct? So we probably want to initiate that process. I think you guys would want to see the renderings first and then we get referred?
I think we can do that this evening, actually.
Okay. So we'll get that in process and we'll get that to you guys. And then we'll obviously modify the drainage as we need to and then button up the landscaping and add additional details.
And then Brian, I just don't remember, was the office for the storage in the building or was it in the front building?
It was in the front building, and just as the applicant has dived deeper into the self-storage arena, they want to try to model this concept after what they do at U-Haul, where it's almost like a kiosk system. They have, the applicants are, involved in the area, and they have several businesses in the area. So the thought process is, come to one of our buildings in Hopewell, we'll set you up with a kiosk. That way you can go into that building fully automated, key-coded. So that was an option too, just trying to keep up with technology and convenience to potential customers.
Are you expecting to gate the road as well, or?
I don't think, I think with this concept, since we're going to the kiosk approach, I don't think we would need that, but if,
Just the doors on the building itself?
and again, going with that feel, getting like a large gate, that industrial look away, we would thought with the kiosk process, it may be a little bit softer.
Our fire commissioner has it.
So this is a building that people can enter, and there's individual bays inside the building. As you design it, I would just suggest we make sure that there's, number one, means of moving between the floors from within the building, and then just keep in mind means of egress. Obviously, once the building becomes partially underground, that becomes a concern for us, is to be able to multiple ways out.
Yep. I think what we're going to do, we're going to carry a concept that we typically do with our two-story buildings where we have grade coming around. We'll probably have some kind of a small retaining wall to allow passageway from the back of the building around, and we'll go through, life safety measures with you and the building department.
Okay.
The only other comment that our office had is, they need to provide a revised SWIP. Everything else they know they need to do, lighting, landscaping, turning envelopes. In my notes here, I note that they had, the board had granted an 8 parking space waiver on the first go-around of this. And that was usually due to how tight it was behind the original building location. I just, make a general statement that, because of, they've shifted the building forward, there's a lot more area behind the building. If
Restore the 8.
the board wants to put in those additional 8 spaces,
But it's, the use probably doesn't warrant a ton of parking, right? Do we land bank
well, it
instead?
was a waiver that was granted.
And I think we did that, though, based on similar projects that didn't require nearly as much parking as you would generally require, so it made sense to do it with that waiver.
But the parking looks a little lopsided, though. You got a lot more, you got double the parking for the second floor than you do for the first floor, if I'm seeing this right, and then factor in your handicap spaces. It's probably even more of a
We can
difference.
play around with building shape, but if we can try to balance it a little bit more, but we can take a look at it.
Because I would think
How many
any,
people do you expect to be there at one time?
I don't anticipate like a mad rush. It's usually kind of like actually off-peak hours when people have it.
a lot of the Stormville flea markets going on.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Now, we can show to land bank them, if they ever need to be. We now have the space to provide them if need be, so.
Yeah.
Well, I think you can tell from the questions and comments, there's a general attitude to permit this to move forward. So could I have a motion to refer this to the ARC?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And then could I have a motion to declare our intent to be lead agency?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Excellent.
And then with this type of modification that we're doing, since we're lessening impervious, but we are increasing height in our building, do we need a public hearing scheduled for this? Or would we have the ability to waive that?
I think we'll need a public hearing. Yeah.
Would you need a submission from us to make that motion, or can we make that motion tonight?
I think we'd like to see the elevations and see a little bit more information at the next meeting, and then we can take it up at that meeting potentially.
Okay,
Great.
I appreciate it.
Yep, thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Get those to, the elevations to the fire advisory board also?
Yes, sir.
So, one more piece of business just for the board is that tomorrow evening at 5 o'clock, Michelle is actually going to give us a seminar on the zoning map, so just for the board or anybody else that might want to attend. And if there's no other business to come before this board, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.